on those two Final Four runs. You obviously have a player like Caitlin who's on the team. I have to ask, when did you first hear about her, and then what were your first impressions of her when she got to campus?
Yeah, she had come on a couple visits, and she was like a big name in Iowa. So I had heard about her. I wasn't from Iowa, so I didn't know as much. And that like all Iowa attack, like AAU program is like so big, and I had I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, whatever. But it's like a big thing in Iowa, and so I had heard about this Caitlin Clark, and I was like watching videos of her just like having like 40 points, like averaging a million in high school. And I was like, oh, this girl thinks she's going to come here and rule the world, like whatever. It's going to be, whatever.
You already know this woman was right. She called it before anybody else did. And the fact that Kate Martin saw what Caitlin Clark was going to become before the entire sport figured it out, that tells you everything you need to know about who Kate Martin really is. Welcome back to Street Hoops. I'm Dre Fiver, and today we are getting into the full story, the rise, the burial, the phone call, and the comeback, because Kate Martin's journey from Iowa Queen to Golden State Valkyrie is one of the most underrated redemption arcs in women's basketball right now. And if you have been sleeping on this, consider this your wake-up call. Let's go back to where this whole thing started, because you cannot understand what happened in Las Vegas without first understanding what was built in Iowa City. When Caitlin Clark arrived at Carver Hawkeye Arena, she was already a viral sensation, a teenager averaging what looked like 1 million points a game in high school highlight reels. Kate Martin, a seasoned upperclassman who had been grinding for the Hawkeyes long before the cameras showed up, had exactly the reaction most veteran players would have. She saw the hype, watched the clips, and quietly thought to herself, okay, this girl thinks she's about to walk in here and run everything. And then Caitlin Clark walked in and immediately ran everything. That had to sting for about 5 minutes before Kate realized she was watching something generational unfold right in front of her. And instead of resisting it, Kate made a decision that separates good players from great ones. She figured out how to make it work. Because the version of Iowa basketball that took the country by storm was never just Caitlin Clark. It was Clark and Martin. It was fireworks and foundation. Clark brought the spectacle, the logo threes, the record-shattering scoring nights, the jaw-dropping moments that kept ESPN running highlights on loop. Kate brought the architecture, the boxing out, the screens, the defensive rotations, the smart cuts, the hustle plays that never show up on a highlight reel, but absolutely decide who wins and who goes home. Iowa head coach Lisa Bluder said it plainly and repeatedly throughout Martin's career. She called Kate the Glue, a nickname that stuck with Iowa fans and became her defining identity. As Bluder once put it in a post-game press conference, quote, Kate's always been the glue, and people overlook Kate. That was not just a coach showing love to a role player. That was a basketball mind identifying something real. Look at those numbers from the 2023 and 2024 Final Four runs. 13.1 points and nearly 7 rebounds a game. That is not a sidekick stat line. That is a co-pilot doing real work. And the game she has pointed to as her career highlight? Not a buzzer beater, not a personal scoring record. Beating South Carolina, the undefeated powerhouse, the Twin Towers, the program that had steamrolled everyone in their path. Kate has described that win as the moment her whole team believed they could do the impossible. They executed the game plan perfectly against the best team in the country, and it worked because everybody did their job. Kate Martin did her job better than almost anyone else on that floor. That is the player the Las Vegas Aces drafted. That is the player they then decided not to develop. Now here is where Dre has got to be honest with you, because I watch a lot of professional sports and I have seen a lot of franchise mismanagement. But what happened to Kate Martin in Las Vegas is almost textbook how not to handle a young player. The Aces drafted her 18th overall in the 2024 wnba draft, a pick that honestly surprised even Kate herself, who had shown up to the draft largely to support Caitlin Clark and wasn't entirely sure she was going to hear her name called at all. She went up on that stage, got her moment with Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, and then began what looked like a promising professional career. Except what followed wasn't a career trajectory. It was a slow, institutional disappearing act.
For sure. Yeah. I would say so. Like, I just remember you have that summer before, and she was doing things that I had never seen anybody do before. And as a freshman to come in and have that kind of confidence, like not everybody has that. Like I was like, oh, I haven't really seen anything like this. And so we knew she was going to be outstanding. And then, at the beginning of the year, we had some big wins, and there was highs and lows that year for sure. But, it took us a little bit to figure it out. But it obviously turned out better than I could have ever expected or thought.
In the early part of the 2024 season with the Aces, Kate was getting around 20 minutes a game. That is respectable rookie runway. That is enough time to find your rhythm, make reads, contribute, and grow. But as the veterans returned from injury, as the machine got back to full power, those minutes evaporated. By September, she was down to 11.5 minutes per game. The stats followed: 2.6 points, 1.6 rebounds. And when the playoffs arrived, 6 games played, 3 total minutes. 3. That is not development. That is a decision. The Aces decided Kate Martin was not part of their real plan. They had Aja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and a veteran rotation that Becky Hammond was never going to shake up for a rookie. The hierarchy was locked, and Kate was on the outside of it with no door in sight. Now I want to be clear about something, because I am not here to drag Aja Wilson or Becky Hammond just for the sake of drama. Aja Wilson is arguably the best player in the world. She was dominant all season. The Aces were built around her the way great championship franchises are built around their franchise player. But here is the thing, that structure, as legitimate and effective as it was for winning rings, was absolutely suffocating for a young player trying to find her professional footing. You cannot grow inside a machine that has no interest in making room for you. And according to Ballast Life's reporting on Martin's perspective, she understood exactly what was happening and was trying to stay mentally afloat through all of it. She said she had to learn to be patient, play off 2 feet, play in control, the kind of adjustments any smart player makes. But the adjustments didn't matter when she wasn't even getting the minutes to make them count. Here's what the transcript from her interview reveals that hit me hardest. Kate said that when you're a bench player in limited minutes, it is genuinely one of the hardest things in basketball to come off cold and be immediately impactful. That is a real thing. That is not making excuses. Stars get rhythm from volume. Role players have to manufacture effectiveness from tiny windows. And when the window is only 11 minutes on a good night, there is almost no margin for error. But here is where the real conversation has to happen. Because according to reporting around the expansion draft process and Kate's own words in subsequent interviews, the Las Vegas Aces made the decision not to protect her heading into the expansion draft. Kate, to her credit, saw it coming. She looked at the roster and did the math herself. Too many good players, too established a hierarchy, too little runway for her to ever become what she was capable of becoming there. The business was the business. And then one conversation changed everything. The source material points to Caitlin Clark, Kate's former running mate, the person who trusted her more than anyone in basketball, as the voice that helped Kate reframe what was happening. Clark herself was dealing with her own brutal wnba adjustment in Indiana. The speed, the physicality, the pressure of carrying an entire franchise's expectations on her shoulders from day one. But when Kate explained what the Vegas situation actually felt like, Clark, who had played alongside Kate long enough to know exactly what she brings to a winning basketball team, gave her something nobody in Las Vegas seemed willing to give her: honest perspective. Kate wasn't failing, the environment was failing her, and sometimes that distinction, delivered by the right person at the right time, is everything. Now, what I find absolutely fascinating from a basketball character standpoint is how Kate processed the expansion draft selection. Because when the Golden State Valkyries picked her, she did not describe it as being rescued. She described it as getting another shot. She told Sue Bird directly her goal last year was to get drafted, then to make the roster, then to stay on the team, then to give it her best. Each goal building on the last. That is not a player who got crushed by Las Vegas. That is a player who stayed mentally intact through a genuinely difficult situation and came out the other side with her framework still working. That, in my opinion as Dre Fiver, is one of the most underrated mental toughness stories in women's basketball this decade. Because let's talk about what Golden State actually represents. The Valkyries are the exact opposite organizational environment from what Kate experienced with the Aces. The Aces were a finished product, veterans, hierarchy, titles, a locked rotation. You either fit into the established structure or you waited. The Valkyries were building from scratch. Head coach Natalie Nakase, who previously worked under Becky Hammond in Las Vegas as an assistant, knew exactly what she wanted from her players: effort, communication, intent, and basketball intelligence. Mistakes could be corrected, drift could not. That culture is custom built for a player like Kate Martin. In Golden State, the standard was never about star power. It was about people who could help shape what this franchise was going to become, and the results speak for themselves in a way that should absolutely silence anyone who wrote Kate Martin off as a feel-good story with no real substance. According to Ballis Life's reporting from August 2025, Kate's numbers in her sophomore season jumped from 2.6 points and 1.6 rebounds with Vegas to 6.2 points and 2.7 rebounds a game with the Valkyries. That is not a coincidence. That is what happens when you put a player in the right system. And on June 25th, 2025, mark the date, Kate Martin erupted for a career-high 21 points against the New York Liberty, the reigning wnba champions. 14 of those points came in the final quarter. When the moment called for someone to step up, Kate stepped all the way up. That is not a bench player staying ready. That is a basketball player announcing herself. The Valkyries themselves became one of the most remarkable expansion franchise stories in professional sports history. Per reporting from Sports Illustrated and the Valkyries' own official channels, Golden State finished the 2025 wnba season with a 23-21 record, the most wins ever by an expansion team in their inaugural season, and became the first expansion franchise in wnba history to qualify for the playoffs in their first year. 23 sold-out games at Chase Center, nicknamed Valhalla by the fans who filled it. That energy Kate was describing in her interview, the fans staying through a loss to the Los Angeles franchise, cheering the whole game, people wearing Valkyries gear all over the Bay Area, that was real. That was the beginning of something. And Kate Martin was part of building it from the foundation up. Here is what I keep coming back to as I sit with this story. Everyone in women's basketball knew who Caitlin Clark was. Everyone talked about Clark. But the reason Iowa was actually dangerous in those Final Four runs, the reason they were not just a one-person show against the best defenses in the country, was because of players like Kate Martin doing exactly what needed to be done in the margins. Iowa coach Lisa Bluter called her the glue, and that word matters. Glue is what holds everything together. Take it away, and it all comes apart. The Las Vegas Aces took the glue away and thought it wouldn't matter because they had enough superstar adhesive to hold things. For their championship window, they were right. But for Kate Martin's development, they were dead wrong. And the Valkyries are cashing in on that miscalculation every single night. What makes this whole story even richer is that Kate Martin genuinely does not carry bitterness about what happened. She has said publicly that it's just the business of the sport. But as Dre, let me say what she is too professional to say. Being reduced to 3 minutes of playoff basketball after proving yourself in college at the highest level would test anyone's belief in themselves. It tested hers. And the fact that she came out of it with her perspective intact, her goals recalibrated, and her value clearly understood by a franchise willing to actually use her, that is character. That is the kind of thing no highlight reel can manufacture. As reported by Ballis Life, Kate said it herself after the 2025 season, "There's a lot of things that I've grown in my game and a lot of things that I can still work on. But overall, I'm very grateful to be where I'm at." And that to me is the whole story in one sentence. Not just surviving the storm, but being genuinely grateful you came out the other side of it. From Iowa to Las Vegas to the Bay. From the glue to the foundation. From Caitlin Clark's most trusted running mate to a Valkyrie helping build something historic from scratch. Kate Martin's career arc is a reminder that in professional sports, the situation matters as much as the talent. You can have everything it takes to succeed and still end up in a place that will never let you show it. The key is having enough self-awareness to know the difference, and enough courage to choose yourself when the door opens. And when the Golden State Valkyries opened that door, Kate Martin did not just walk through it. She helped build what was on the other side. Comment Kate the Great if you are riding with this story. And if you are new here, smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know, did Las Vegas make a mistake leaving Kate Martin exposed in that expansion draft, or was it just business? And subscribe to Street Hoops so you never miss another deep dive like this one. I'm Dre Fiver. We'll see you in the next one.